Theme 9, Bidding and Contract Negotiations 9.1 Understand the different methods of realizing construction projects. 9.1.1 Differentiate between the forms of project delivery. Stipulated price contract, design bid build, traditional relationship between owner, consultant, and contractor. The owner selects consultants to design and prepare construction documents based on a functional program and budget. Document 6. Construction firms bid on the work. The lowest bidder is generally awarded the work, CCDC 2, as a fixed price contract. The contractor then builds the project with the consultants maintaining a quality assurance role on behalf of the owner. CHOP 2.3.2. Advantages, limited risk factors, competitive tendering, fairest method, plus typically used on publicly funded projects. Widespread use and familiarity, clear roles assigned to each party. Resolution off design prior to construction, cost off construction is known. Minimum change orders. Linear sequencing of work disadvantages. Work takes longer. Design is complete before project starts construction. Separation off design and construction restricts communication. Contractor unknown when documents are prepared. Clients sometimes perceive extras to be more prevalent and costly. Contracts may be awarded to ill-qualified contractors or subtrades due to low bidding. Changes are typical higher due to no early input from contractor and little flexibility after construction. Start construction management. Contractor as agent, advisor, and or constructor. A construction manager becomes a part of the team early on to oversee elements such as schedule, cost, construction method, and procurement. The owner contracts with each of the primary parties individually under 2 separate contracts. The CM contract is a 2-stage contract with the first as CM and the second as GC, Alberta approach. Alternately, the owner can contract each party individually under 3 contracts, CM as advisor. Alternately, the owner can contract solely with the CM, who then directly engages the services of the PC and a CC on behalf of the owner, CM as agent. Alternately, the CM can be hired prior to completion of the design to act as a project coordinator and general coordinator, assuming all the liability and responsibility of the GC, CM as constructor. CHOP 2.3.2. A construction manager can be an architect, contractor, typically, or an engineer or developer specialized in construction management. Advantages: construction advice during the design process, direct contractual relationship with the owner, the opportunity to call bids sequentially, thus saving time by permitting an earlier start, fast track. Careful monitoring of costs and schedule. Architect, trades, and the construction manager are separate. Less litigious. Disadvantages: construction usually commences before the total costs are known. Added costs and time in selection of an additional consultant. More complex relationships. Traditional roles may be confused. The relationship now includes a third party, sometimes complicating communication. Change orders and delay claims are possible from prime or trade contractors who bid too low. Owner as constructor may not want to accept responsibility for construction safety. Multiple contracts may increase administrative costs and potential coordination problems. Project management. Similar to the CM as agent approach to construction management, a PM is hired by an owner during the pre-design phase to manage the entire project and engage all the disciplines, including the architect and the consulting engineers. The project may have the same phases: design, bid, build, or it may be sequentially tendered. CHOP 2.3. 2. The main difference between project management and construction management is that the project manager has a contract with the client and in turn employs the architectural and engineering consultants for his group, whereas under the construction management aspect, the owner engages the architectural and engineering consultants, and at the same time or shortly afterwards, engages the services of a construction manager. Advantages: a well-informed owner is better able to make decisions on cost versus quality issues. The quality of the design may improve when the architect can draw on the project manager's experience. Disadvantages: this arrangement is not permitted by the regulations of most provincial associations of architects unless an architect can maintain a direct link with the owner. The owner's ability to control construction quality is reduced because efficiencies or cost reductions implemented by the project manager that affect quality may not be discussed directly with the owner. Design build: the owner contracts with a single entity, design builder, to provide both the design and construction services. The design build entity may be a single firm, a consortium of experts, or a joint venture. The contractor leads the design building team. Design build projects usually have two phases. 1. The design builder provides design and monitors costs. 2. Design builder and contractor enter into a stipulated sum or cost-plus contract for the completion of the building. Some provincial legislations, Architects Act, do not allow the architect to be a contractor, so architects can't take a leading role on a design-build project. Conflicting advantages: functional program and owner's decisions are committed early. Cost-benefit analysis is addressed early in the design process. Immediate feedback is received from the contractor on design options. Streamlined process can increase efficiency. Team approach is enforced. Disadvantages: the responsibility for design approval shifts from the owner to the design builder. Decisions by the design builder are based more on initial cost rather than on design or long-term value. The cost is determined before the design is complete. Additional fees when two architects are involved: an advocate architect for owner plus DB architect. Architect's role as leader of the design team is reduced. High risk to the architect for preparing the proposal, which may not be successful. Potential for tension between the architect and the building contractor. Regulated versus unregulated. Potential for a lack of communication between the architect and the owner or building users. Potential conflicts of interest in preparing change orders and certification because the architect's client and builder are one and the same. Cost plus: the contractor is compensated for the actual costs of the work plus a fee based on an agreed-upon fixed sum or a percentage of the cost of the work. Appropriate for small, complicated projects in which time is a factor or total costs are initially hard to determine. CHOP 2.3.2 Advantages: costs are based on actual quantities and markups with no unknown factor, suitable when the time frame is more important than construction costs. A formal tender call is not REQ. Flexible in response to unknowns at the start of construction, suitable where extraordinary quality is required. Construction may begin before the design is complete. Disadvantages: no incentive to avoid cost overruns, often not permitted on publicly funded projects. Total cost is unknown until project completion. Public-private partnership, also known as P3s or alternate financing and procurement. AFP in Ontario, generally used for infrastructure, civil engineering works, and larger-scale public buildings. However, some governments are bundling several small buildings of the same type into one contract. P3s occur when the private sector works with governments or other public agencies to bring private sector capital and or expertise to provide and deliver public services. Governments argue that such projects would not have been possible under traditional government processes using public funds, and that these projects can be delivered more quickly through P3s in response to a growing infrastructure deficit. CHOP 2.3.2 Advantages: uses the efficiencies and expertise of the private sector for public sector projects, allows projects to be financed in ways which may not be possible through public methods, taxes, etc. Life cycle costs can be reduced because the operating costs are critical to the private sector single point of responsibility. Architects may develop a long-term relationship with ongoing consortia, reduce time and construction schedule to deliver projects compared with traditional methods. Design often becomes the differentiating quality in a proposal. Disadvantages: transfers or allocates certain financial risks to the private sector. Best value is not always achieved as initial capital. Costs sometimes become overly important. Potential for a lack of communication between the architect and the owner or building users. Building users have less control or input over the process, and its outcome sometimes more difficult to obtain. Professional liability insurance: difficult for small architectural practices to compete in this market. Developer proposal, also known as turnkey construction or build to suit. The developer proposal delivery method is characterized by the legal transfer of title to real property, characterized by 3 phases. 1. An owner prepares preliminary design information, including a functional program and budget. 2. The developer completes the project's design and carries out construction, operating the final building long enough to ensure proper functionality of all systems. And 3. The developer sells or leases the building to the owner or intended owner. CHOP 2.3.2 Advantages: owner gets a fully functional building as a package from one supplier. Effective for owners who can obtain financing or mitigate risk. The risk is all on the developer. Early cost commitment. Reduced claims for change orders. Conflicts do not involve owner. Disadvantages: no owner participation in design. May not meet client expectations. Owner may not be able to prepare necessary documents early on. Functional program. Performance specs: architect does not serve the owner. Quality may be compromised. Developer's early cost commitment is not based on full design. And documentation: it is usually a guaranteed maximum price early in the process before construction documentation. 9. To understand the types of construction contract. 9.2.1. Identify the different types of construction contract. Stipulated price contract, CCDC. 2. The most common type of fixed price contract. The stipulated price is established through bidding, either open bidding or invitation of bids from pre-qualified bidders. The fixed price or time for construction can only be adjusted by change orders. A stipulated price contract can produce maximum profit for the contractor, who also assumes maximum risk. This contract should be used when construction costs are reasonably predictable and when full documentation is available. CHOP 2.3.2 Cost Plus Contract, CCDC. 3. In a cost plus contract, the contractor is compensated for the actual costs of the work plus a fixed sum or percentage of the costs. Basically, the owner reimburses the contractor for the allowable costs incurred in the course of construction. Costs are paid regardless of the progress of the work and no matter how far the task is from completion. Work may cease when the construction costs are equal to the funds provided for in the contract. This method is appropriate for small, complex projects in which the total costs are initially difficult to determine, also known as time and materials. A variation of this contract is cost plus an upset price or guaranteed maximum price contract, in which the contractor is compensated for the actual costs plus a fee with an agreed-upon maximum price. The guaranteed maximum price can be adjusted only by change order. CHOP 2.3.2 Unit Price Contract, CCDC 4. In a unit price contract, the contractor is paid a predetermined price for each unit or quantity of work or material used in the project's construction. The unit price can be derived through bidding or negotiation. The actual quantities are verified by independent inspection, by a clerk of the works, or by a quantity surveyor. It is primarily used in civil engineering works such as roads or site preparation, where the contractor is paid for measured quantities at quoted unit rates. CHOP 2.3.2. Each contract is divided into 3 parts: agreement between owner and contractor definitions, general conditions, followed by the contract documents 9.2.2. Explain the purpose of the CCDC construction documents. The purpose of the CCDC documents is to ensure clarity of purpose between the client, consultant, and contractor in the design and construction of an improvement. They are written for the protection of all parties in an unbiased manner. The prime consultant's responsibilities are to provide administration of the contract as described in the contract documents, including preparation of change directives and change orders. The contractor is responsible for the means, methods, techniques, sequences, and procedures, and for coordinating the various parts of the work under the contract. 9.3. Understand the methods for the awarding of a construction contract. 9.3.1. Describe the responsibilities of each party involved in the tendering process. At the outset, the prime consultant and the client must determine the form of project delivery, the type of construction contract, and the method for awarding the contract. Architect. The architect assists the client in obtaining bids and negotiated proposals, and by preparing contract documents. The architect may issue addenda. The architect analyses bids and makes recommendations. Owner pre-qualifies contractors if an invited tender call is used using a uniform bid depository or a local newspaper. Both architect and the client determine the form of project delivery, the type of construction contract, and the method for awarding the contract. 9.3.2. Describe the role of the local construction associations and bid depositories in the tendering process. Construction associations and their bid depositories help to manage the bid process by disseminating bid documentation, information, and addenda, and promptly collecting trade contractor bids for multiple trade projects. These trade or subcontractor bids are distributed to general contractors so that they may be included in the general contractor's bid for major construction projects. Bid depositories operate as an adjunct to local construction associations and have a chair and board of directors. Bid depositories follow a strict set of rules and guidelines to minimize confusion, limit bid shopping, and make all required information available to all members of each bid depository and to all general contractor bidders registered with that bid depository. 9.3.3. Describe the methods for the awarding of a construction contract. Open competitive bids or public tender call bidders are not screened or pre-qualified. Contractor capability may be uncertain, frequently used when the project involves public funds. The notice is advertised in daily newspapers and media outlets. Invited competitive bids or invited tender call may be based on previous satisfactory experience. Bidders may be selected by pre-qualification. Invited bids are typically used on small projects or projects with private clients or that require specialized expertise. Direct selection, in which the owner negotiates with one contractor, usually based on trust built on over time. Direct selection usually leads to the following forms of construction contract: stipulated price, such as CCDC 2, cost plus, such as CCDC 3, or construction management contracts. 9.3.4. Describe the stages of a standard tendering process. Design bid build. 1. Call for tenders, open, invited, or direct selection. Open bids. A notice of tender is placed in newspapers and construction journals. 2. The contractor leaves a deposit and picks up drawings and specifications and any addenda. 3. Addenda, if required, are issued in writing to all bidders a maximum of 4 days prior to the bid closing date. 4. Bids are received and stamped with time of delivery. Late bids are returned unopened. 5. Analysis of bids by the architect and client, including completeness of each bid, inclusion of all addenda, the proposed construction start date and schedule, subcontractors' alternatives, unit prices, and separate prices. 6. Typically, the lowest bona fide bid is selected if the bid is formal. 7. Contract award, letter of acceptance, notification of unsuccessful bidders so they can pick up deposits. 1. Call for tenders. If a public call, the notice of tender is placed in newspapers. If an invited competitive bid, CCDC 11, contractor's qualification statement, would be used. The bid package would consist of instructions to bidders including the bid form, CCDC 10, bid security requirements, bid bond or other, agreement to bond, and pre-bid information and meeting times. The contract forms and bond requirements would consist of a model contract including general conditions, supplementary conditions including insurance requirements, performance bond, labor and material bond requirements, cash allowances, and contingency allowances. The specifications would consist of general requirements, Division 1, technical specifications, Divisions 2 to 16, and independent testing and investigations requirements. Site information would consist of plan of public utilities, legal and topographic surveys, geotechnical report, and environmental reports. Drawings would consist of drawings and details, schedules including room finish schedules, door schedules, etc. Construction scheduling restrictions, phasing and occupancy requirements. Addenda. 2. The following instructions to bidders must be included. The requirements of a compliant bid, whether or not bids may be withdrawn, and under what circumstances, whether or not, and the extent to which pre-award negotiations will be permitted, and all criteria for selection of a successful bidder. A bond is used by the contractor to provide an owner with a guarantee from a bonding company, known as a surety, a useful means of ensuring responsible contract performance and financial security. CCCDC 22, a guide to construction surety bonds. A bid bond guarantees that if the bid is accepted within the time period stated, the contractor will enter into a formal contract with the owner. If the contractor fails to enter into a contract, the surety will guarantee up to the amount of the bid bond to pay the difference in money between the amount of the contractor's bid and the amount for which the owner legally contracts with another contractor for the project, usually between 5 to 10% of the estimated construction cost. A performance bond is designed to indemnify the owner up to the amount of the bond in the event of a default on the part of the contractor, which will cover any additional costs beyond the agreed contract amount, as well as other costs for which the surety is liable, up to the amount of the bond. Often, a performance bond is based on a percentage of the contract amount, such as 50% or 100%. A labor and material bond guarantees that claimants, subcontractors, subtrades, etc., who have direct ties with the contractor will be paid for labor and materials incurred during work on the project. 3. A deposit is required to obtain bid documents from a bid depository to ensure their safe return. 4. Addenda may be prepared after thorough review, might reveal omissions or contradictions in the project documents or items which need clarification or correction. The architect must be careful to issue new information only in writing to all bidders and others, including construction associations, bid depositories, the client, consultants, and authorities. Use instructions like delete, add, or revise to read. Addenda should be issued no later than 4 days before bid closing. 5. Bids are stamped with time of delivery. Late bids are returned unopened. 6. Bid types to be documented. Formal bid, which has been correctly submitted. A qualified bid, which may not seem to be in strict accordance with the instructions to bidders or the construction documents. Or an informal bid, which is incomplete, late, unsigned, or lacks the required documentation or security. If the lowest bid is more than 15% of the latest approved construction cost estimate, architects must, if requested by the client, revise the construction documents and administer a new tender call at no additional fee. The architect should report in writing the findings of the bid analysis, including a comparison of all price and bid information, and recommend a course of action, usually the selection of a contractor, to the client. 7. A letter of acceptance is generated by the client, which allows the contractor to start work immediately while a formal contract is drafted and executed. Bids must be accepted or rejected as submitted. It is prudent to advise the client to have the letter of acceptance and subsequent construction contract reviewed by the client's lawyer. Unsuccessful bidders should be notified promptly. Bid bonds usually expire. The contract amount is included in the letter for future use and information of unsuccessful bidders. A brief explanation should be included if it differs from the base bid. 8. A construction contract is prepared by the prime consultant, ExAC 2. The documents should be bound and sealed to make it difficult to replace or remove pages. Wax or wire and lead seal. 9.4. Evaluate the bids submitted by the contractors. 9.4.1. Describe the architect's responsibility in making recommendations. The architect's responsibility, as described in Document 6, is to assist and advise the client in obtaining and negotiating proposals and in awarding and preparing contracts for construction. The architect analyses with the owner the completeness of each bid, the bid amount plus value-added taxes such as HSD or QSD, the inclusion of all addenda proposed start date and schedule alternative subcontractors listed, including follow-up of the references unit prices, separate prices, manufacturer, and suppliers listed with the follow-up. As required, the architect should report in writing the findings of the bid analysis, including a comparison of all price and bid information, and recommend a course of action, usually the selection of a contractor, to the client. In preparing bid documents, the architect must determine what cost information is needed to decide who is awarded the contract. They are as follows: alternate prices, separate prices, itemized prices, and unit prices. Alternative prices from each bidder is evaluated to determine the best overall value for the client. The lowest combination of base bid and acceptable alternative prices is normally the choice. Separate prices are not included in the base bid price. Separate prices are for work added to or deducted from the base bid. The architect compares the separate prices and tabulates a total price for construction as client information. Itemized prices are costs for a specific item or section of work for information purposes only. Unit prices are requested for hidden or indeterminate work and are not included in the base bid. 9.4.2. Assess bid submissions. If only one bid is submitted, the architect should advise the client to return the bid unopened or to negotiate. Submission of a bid is a legally enforceable contract and cannot be withdrawn during the period of irrevocability provided for in a bid bond. Bid types to be documented: formal bid, which has been correctly submitted; a qualified bid, which may not seem to be in strict accordance with the instructions to bidders or the construction documents; or an informal bid, which is incomplete, late, unsigned, or lacks the required documentation or security. Any bid is informal if it does not meet the basic requirements concerning confidentiality. It does not indicate that the correct number of addenda were received and included in the bid amount. It is not accompanied by the requested bid bond or security. It is not properly signed or sealed. Bonding requirements are not submitted, for example, consent of surety or agreement to bond. 10.1. Understand the roles of the architect and other participants in the administration of the construction contract. 10.1.1. Explain the roles and responsibilities of the architect in the administration of a given construction contract. The role of the architect during the construction phase office is outlined in the Client Architect Agreement, Document 6 or 600, or in CCDC 2, applicable to the stages prior to construction, during construction, at closeout, and during the warranty period. The architect is usually the prime consultant for building projects. The consultant provides for administration of the contract. The architect represents and provides advice to the client. The architect ensures the contractor and owner is fulfilling their respective roles and obligations outlined in the contract. The architect provides the contractor with technical interpretations and information. The architect has the authority to act on behalf of the owner. Prepares supplemental instructions as required for clarification of the contract documents. Prepares requests for information for contractors. Prepares field review reports while monitoring the construction process. Prepares proposed changes, change directives, and change orders and specs and drawings in changes to the project. Evaluates the contractor's proposed substitutions and make subsequent revisions to the drawings and specs. Reviews shop drawings. Prepares certificates for payments, which are forwarded to the client. Prepares agenda for special meetings if required. Prepares record drawings showing changes made to the work during the course of construction. Prepares the certificate of substantial performance. The date triggers the beginning of the warranty period and the release of holdback monies. 10.1.2. Explain the roles and responsibilities of the client, owner, in the administration of a given construction contract. As per RAIC Document 6, authorize a person to act on the client's behalf and define that person's scope of authority with respect to the project. Review documents submitted by the architect and give prompt decisions and directions. Obtain and pay for permits and development costs, generally providing financing information if required. Make payments to the contractor. Authorize changes in the work. 10.1.3. Explain the roles and responsibilities of the contractor in the administration of a given construction contract. The role of the contractor is to carry the construction of the work as described in the construction documents, specifically by means: study contract documents and fulfill all requirements, including regulatory requirements, to the extent provided for in the contract documents. Supervise and coordinate the work of all trades and subcontractors. Execute the work by selecting all construction methods, techniques, sequences, etc., being responsible for construction safety and all workplace regulations. Pay for all labor, produces, and subcontracts. Set out the timetable for construction work by indicating the intended construction methods and sequence. At Closeout. The contractor will submit the following for review, which the architect reviews and submits to the owner with comments regarding conformity to contract requirements. Municipal occupancy permit. An annotated set of as-built drawings and specifications showing all changes made during construction. Manuals incorporating maintenance and operating instructions. Warranties for materials, equipment, and products. Copies of all the permits and certificates of authorization issued by the various public utilities companies and authorities having jurisdiction. Final clearance certificate from the WSIB or WCB. Statutory declarations for application for release of holdback from the general contractor and all subcontractors. Final reports on work carried out to correct deficiencies. Replacement materials, maintenance products, special tools, etc. A complete set of keys and certification of various HVAC, fire, security, and mechanical systems. 10.2.1. Explain the tasks related to the construction phase, from the initial construction meeting throughout construction and closeout until the end of the warranty period. During the construction phase, the architect must review shop drawings, samples, and product data submittals. Provide timely interpretation of the contract by issuing supplemental instructions. Prepare and issue proposed changes forms in a timely manner. Review the contractor's quotations prepared in response to proposed changes and claims for additional costs. Prepare and issue change directives if the adjustments to the contract price and time have not yet been agreed upon. Prepare and issue change orders once the adjustments to the contract price and time have been agreed to. Review progress payments, usually on a monthly basis. Monitor progress of construction against the contractor's schedule. Compare the contractor's schedule of values with actual work performed. Verify receipt of statutory declarations and certificates from the WSIB and WCB. Prepare certificate of payment and forward it to the owner. Provide support to field functions, preparing and distributing field reports and agenda for special site meetings. At closeout, the contractor will submit the necessary documents and manuals for review, which the architect reviews and submits to the owner with comments regarding conformity to contract requirements. Certification of payment for known deficiencies should never be made until the performance of the work is acceptable. During the takeover procedures, the architect must preparation of certificates of substantial performance. The warranty period begins on the date of certification. Preparation of a certificate authorizing payment of the amount of holdback which has accrued to date, to be dated 1 day after the termination of the lien claim period. The client's lawyer must determine if any liens have been applied. Review defects and deficiencies during the warranty period on behalf of the client, and notify the contractor of items requiring attention. When all deficiencies have been corrected, the certificate of completion may be released. Review soft mechanical or electrical systems dependent on whether must be reviewed accordingly. Seasonal testing. Produces a letter of assurance in some jurisdictions, assuring that everything is in compliance with the code and regulations. Demonstrate all building systems in the presence of the owner, maintenance personnel, subcontractors, and trades and authorities having jurisdiction for certain systems, such as testing of the fire alarm systems. During the commissioning process, the architect must confirm that the contractor's implementation of the architect's design was as described in the contract documents. Confirm that the design satisfies the client's requirements. During warranty review, the architect must pre-order the anniversary date of the warranty, arrange a full review of the project, direct the contractor to correct the problem as required under a typical construction contract. Advise the client to deal with the condition because it is a maintenance problem. During post-occupancy evaluations, the architect must review a building's performance, assess how well the building matches users' needs, identify ways to improve building design, performance, and fitness to purpose. As an additional service, the architect may review functional performance, including social and behavioral review, efficiency of spatial arrangements, and technical performance of building envelope or finishes. Performance bond, labor and material payment bond, insurance certificates, construction schedule, scheduling off values for parts of work, which forms the basis of applications for progress payment, complete list of subcontractors and suppliers, statement of qualification of contractor's site supervisor, proof of current standing with the WSIB of contractor and subcontractor, approvals from authorities having jurisdiction for startup, job site accident prevention program. List off personnel with authorized access to the construction site. 10.2.3. Describe the type of documentation required to effect changes to the construction contract. According to CCDC 2, Stipulated Price Contract, Part 6 of the General Conditions, changes in the work affecting contract price or contract time must be in writing describing the proposed change, which is submitted to the contractor via the standard form proposed change. The contractor, through the architect, provides a written submission to the owner describing the effect of the change on the contract price or contract time, which the architect reviews in order to make recommendations to the owner. When the owner and contractor agree to the adjustments, a change order is issued modifying the contract price and/or time. The value of the work is included in the application for progress payment. CCDC 2.10.2.4. Explain the tasks involved in processing payment for the work. The architect is responsible for preparing certificates of payment based on the schedule of values agreed to and prepared by the contractor at the start of construction, applications for payment on account as provided in Article A5 of the agreement. Payment may be made monthly as the work progresses, the amount of which shall be, for the value, proportionate to the amount of the contract of work performed and products delivered to the place of work as of the last day of the payment period. CCDC 2. The contractor advises all subcontractors and suppliers of any payment application requirement to be included in billing. The contractor submits application for payment to the architect based on the schedule of values. The architect informs the owner of the date of receipt of the contractor's application for payment. The certificate of payment to be issued within 10 days of the request by the contractor. The consultants perform a field review which determines the percentage of work completed and approves it or asks for modifications, giving reasons for the requested amendment. The owner has 20 days from receipt of the architect's certificate for payment to make the payment to the contractor. If the contractor doesn't get paid, the contractor may suspend the work or terminate the contract. Applicable holdbacks required in the provincial lien legislation. 10.2.5. Explain the tasks involved in the review of shop drawings and submittals. Shop drawings ensure and confirm the accuracy, size, and other specific data about the product or material prior to final purchase, fabrication, or delivery. Shop drawings do not supersede the contract documents, but supplement them to assist in the construction. Shop drawings are prepared to indicate accurate dimensions, size, quantity, and location compliant with specs to be reviewed by the contractor. Precise fabrication methods, construction and/or field erection techniques, information to coordinate related trades or adjacent work, elaboration and diagrammatic information, confirmation of the selection of options such as color or finish. The contractor provides shop drawings to the consultant to review in an orderly sequence, as specified in the specs. Contractor shop drawings should be stamped and dated and signed by the person responsible for contractor's review prior to submitting for consultant review. Consultant's review is for conformity to the design concept and general arrangement. Note that the review of shop drawings carries liabilities. The architect must take care to review only those portions that relate to architectural design. The consulting engineers are responsible for reviewing their portions that relate to their portion of the design. The contractor shall advise the consultant in writing of any deviations in a shop drawing from the contract documents. The consultant indicates acceptance or rejection with a stamp of review. The consultant's review doesn't relieve the contractor of responsibility for errors or omissions in the shop drawings. The contractor provides reviews shop drawings to correct the consultant's rejection if required. The consultant reviews and returns the shop drawings in accordance with the agreed schedule or with reasonable promptness so as to not cause any delay in the work. 10.2.6. Explain the terms of a contract related to deficiencies, takeover procedures, commissioning, indemnification, and warranty. Deficiencies, CCDC. 2. General conditions. 2.4. Defective work. The contractor shall promptly correct defective work that has been rejected by the consultant as failing to conform with the contract documents. This includes making good other contractors' work destroyed or damaged by such corrections at the contractor's expense. The owner may deduct the difference in value between the work that was performed and that called for in the contract documents. Statement of completion. When the contractor is satisfied that the work is complete, a request is made in writing for an inspection by the architect. The final inspection often reveals outstanding deficiencies. As such, the architect must prepare and issue a deficiency list. A. Date for completion of all deficiencies is agreed by all parties, and the architect conducts another inspection after this date. After all the deficiencies have been satisfactorily completed, the architect issues a statement of completion identifying the date when the project is to be deemed complete. A. Final certificate of payment for work completed is issued, usually the same date as work was deemed complete. A small dollar amount can remain outstanding for correction of known defects in the work. The architect also prepares a certificate for the release of holdback monies on this final amount. This certificate is known as the Certificate of Total Completion or Certificate of Total Performance. Takeover procedures. A certificate of substantial performance is the first step in the takeover process. The definition of substantial performance varies according to the province's lien legislation. In Ontario, substantial performance means the building is ready for its intended use, and that the value of work to be completed is not more than 3% of the contract price. Substantial performance of the work is established by the architect on the contractor's request. The architect procures a copy for the contractor and the owner. The contractor publishes the certificate in a construction trade newspaper and gives proof of publication to the architect. The contractor publishes the certificate in a construction trade newspaper and gives proof of publication to the architect. This serves as a formal notification to all subcontractors and suppliers of their right to lien within 45 days of publication. If no publication is made, the lien period expires 45 days from when the project is deemed completed. In Ontario, warranty review. The warranty period for the project starts on the date of Certificate of Substantial Performance. During a 1-year warranty period, the architect is responsible for reviewing defects and deficiencies on behalf of the client and for notifying the contractor of items requiring attention prior to the 1-year warranty date anniversary. The architect arranges a review of the project with engineers, the client, the contractor, and the commissioning agent. If a maintenance problem is present, the client must correct it. If a warranty problem is present, the contractor must correct it. Post-occupancy evaluations. This period requires a review of a building's performance. Our view of the overall project delivery is also useful for future knowledge and application. Indemnification is a provision in the contract designed to allocate risk to the contracting party who is in the best position to control and manage that risk. Each party is responsible for its own negligence or breach of the terms and conditions of the contract. The owner determines the extent of exposure and insurance coverage required to be provided by the contractor and himself. Mold is not insured. If found, it is not payable by insurance companies, CCDC 2. The waiver of claim is related to the expiry of the lien period. It is produced 5 days prior to expiry of the lien period, intended to signify the end of an intention to claim. The contractor waives and releases the owner from all claims resulting from acts or omissions occurring after the date of substantial performance. Certification of release of holdback. The architect prepares a certificate authorizing payment of the amount of holdback accrued to the date of substantial performance. The certificate should be dated for payment 1 day after the lien claim period expires. The architect should advise the owner to ensure that no liens have been registered, completed by lawyers, 10 days before the expiry of the holdback period. The money is put in a bank account in the joint names of the owner and contractor as a trust fund. This fund is not intended to enforce the performance of the contractor, nor to ensure that deficiencies will be corrected. Commissioning. This process includes a range of activities undertaken to transform the facility into a fully integrated and operating system. It is a process of quality assurance which confirms the contractor's implementation of the architect's design as defined in the contract documents. The owner usually engages an independent commissioning agent acting as a third party. This is required by lead. 10.3. Apply the administration forms appropriate to different aspects of construction. 10.3.1. Complete a certificate for payment. 10.3.2. Complete a change order. 10.3.3. Complete relevant forms or reports, substantial completion, final inspection, field review, etc. Theme 11, Construction Phase, Site 11.1. Understand the roles of the architect and the other participants in the administration of a construction contract. 1.1.1. Explain the roles and responsibilities of the architect in the administration of a given construction contract. The roles of the architect on site and out of the office are field review, general review, site observations. The terms supervision and inspection refer to levels of service not provided by the architect. Supervision implies overseeing of the construction work, including the activities undertaken by workers on site, which is the responsibility of the contractor. Inspection means a close examination of construction, which is beyond the architect's responsibilities. Field review. The architect's duty during field review is to carry out sufficient periodic site visits at appropriate intervals during various stages of construction to determine if the work is in general conformity with the contract documents. The architect reports on the progress of the work and the observations made on site. to monitor the contractor's performance in maintaining the construction schedule and standards or quality of construction, to provide guidance to the contractor by interpreting contract documents and issuing necessary supplemental instructions, to fulfill performance standards of general review as required by the client-architect agreement. Authorities having jurisdiction and provincial associations of architects, field review functions should follow these principles. Carefully describe to the client the architect's duties and role during the construction phase. Keep the client well informed of the progress of the work, in part by sending out copies of field review reports. Ensure that consultants review their portion of the work. Avoid the words inspect and supervise in all agreements, correspondence, and documentation. Use qualified personnel for field review and ensure that they are properly trained. Prepare a manual with proper procedures for field personnel. Keep proper documentation, including reports, logs, photographs, and videotapes. Promote good communications with the contractor and building officials. The role of the architect during site visits is to conduct a general review, attend site meetings, interpret contract documents or resolve problems, observe testing or other procedures, review and accept samples, mock-ups, etc. Meet with consultants, contractors, or the client regarding the progress of the construction. Determine the percentage of the work completed and the amount of materials stored on the site or on the extended site. This information is used to prepare certificates. The architect is not responsible for the means, methods, sequence, procedures, techniques, or scheduling of construction activities, nor about job site safety. 1.1.2. Explain the roles and responsibilities of the client, owner, in the administration of a given construction contract. According to Document 6, the owner must immediately notify the architect in writing if the owner observes or becomes aware of any fault or defect in the project or any nonconformity with the requirements of the contract. Most clients rely on the architect as their representative, while some may hire a clerk of the works as their representative. In either case, the representative must attend regular job site meetings. 1.1.3. Explain the roles and responsibilities of the contractor in the administration of a given construction contract. The role of the contractor, as described in CCDC 2 and in the specifications, is to be responsible for the execution of all the work, means, and procedures required to carry out the contraction work as described in the contract documents. Generally, the contractor is responsible for the construction schedule, the quality of construction, the construction methods and procedures, supervision of the crew and coordination of subcontractors, safety on site, including compliance with the rules and regulations, as well as any practices by applicable occupational health and safety legislation, initiating, maintaining, and supervising all safety precautions and programs. 1.1.4. Explain the roles and responsibilities of the architect with respect to inspection and testing firms. Soils and materials testing agencies are hired by the owner-client and paid for by the owner, either directly or through the contractor. Basic services and coordination is normally the architect's responsibility, with the client's affirmation. CCDC 2 General Conditions 10.2.3 states, the contractor is responsible for procurement of permits, not building permits, inspections, and certificates necessary for the performance of the work. This responsibility is included in the contract price. Testing agencies and inspection services, an aspect defined under Part 3, Execution. Independent inspection provided by specialist inspection and testing firms is required in most construction projects. The following summarizes the relationship of these specialists with the architect. Inspection and testing is usually recommended by the architect or the engineer. These specialists do not supersede the architect's authority. These services are ancillary to the architect's basic construction administration services. The architect must ensure that he is only assisting, not directing, in the process and does not assume a contractual obligation. Inspection and testing firms undertake test and issue timely reports, but they do not interpret the results of these tests or issue instructions to the contractor. Interpretations are made first by the contractor and finally by the architect and engineering consultants. Inspection and testing is frequently made via cash allowance provided for in the contract documentation, paid by the owner. Sometimes the inspection and testing services include a subcontract. For example, air balancing is a subcontract of the mechanical contractor. Manufacturer's representatives, ExAC, roofing membrane manufacturer, commonly inspect the installation of their products by the trades to ensure compliance with their standards. Inspections and testing required from various divisions of the specifications: DIV.31, site work and earthwork; DIV.3, concrete; DIV.4, masonry; DIV.5, metals; DIV.6, wood and plastics; DIV.7, thermal and moisture protection; DIV.8, openings; DIV.9, finishes; 11.2, understand site tasks related to the different stages of a construction contract. 1.2.1, explain the tasks related to the construction phase on site, from initial construction meeting throughout construction and closeout until the end of the warranty period. Field reviews, tests, and inspections on the site and extended site must take place at regular intervals, such as at project startup, at start of major subcontractors' work on elements forming the enclosure of the building, such as forming and framing, masonry, structural steel, waterproofing, cladding, window systems, roofing; at the start of finishing trades, such as floor finishes, cabinet work, wall finishes, painting, when significant new materials or components are delivered to the site. Site meetings must be held in order to communicate the client's expectations to the construction team, ensure good communication between all parties, exchange and transmit technical information such as shop drawings, provide a structured opportunity for field review, resolve problems and discuss all relevant design and construction issues, assist in making judgments and determinations, review schedules and progress claims. 1.2.2, describe the procedures for monitoring construction progress. The procedures for monitoring construction progress are through field reviews, site meetings, and tests plus inspections by independent firms, contractors, or companies as outlined above. 1.2.3, explain the terms of the construction contract related to field review. The terms of the contract related to field review, as described by Document 6, require that the architect provide field review, a general review of all services in accordance with Supplement No. 3 of the Canadian Handbook of Practice, Professional Standards of Field Review. The two categories of field review are matters required by the building code and contractual matters or good practice. 1.2.4, explain the terms of the construction contract related to the takeover procedures. This is explained in Item 10.2.6. 1.2.5. Explain the terms of the construction contract related to issues of hazardous materials and toxic substances. As explained in CCDC 2 General Conditions, Section 9.2, the owner shall be deemed to have control and management of the place of the work with respect to existing conditions. Prior to the commencing of the work, the owner shall take all reasonable steps to determine whether any toxic or hazardous substances are present at the place of the work, and to provide the consultant and the contractor with a written list of any such substances that are known to exist, including their locations. The owner shall take reasonable steps to ensure that no person's exposure to any toxic or hazardous substances exceeds the time-weighted levels prescribed by applicable legislation at the place of the work, and that not property is damaged or destroyed as a result of exposure to toxic or hazardous substances which are the place of the work, unless the contract expressly provides otherwise. The owner shall be responsible for taking all necessary steps to dispose of, store, or otherwise render harmless, toxic, or hazardous substances prior to the contractor commencing the work. If any toxic or hazardous substance is found by the contractor shall ensure that no person's exposure exceeds any applicable time-weighted levels prescribed by applicable legislation, and immediately report to the consultant and the owner in writing. 11.3. Apply the administration forms appropriate to different aspects of construction. 1.3.1. Complete relevant forms or reports, meeting report, field review, etc. The field review should include the following information: name and position of the person conducting the review, date, time, and duration of the visit, weather conditions, including any extreme conditions, names of those present or name of the superintendent and the general contractor, percentage off the work completed by trade, work progress compared to the contractor's schedule, work now underway or being accomplished, work scheduled to be completed before the next visit, questions raised by the contractor or the owner, determinations made by the architect, outstanding issues requiring action, the list of people receiving copies of the report, status of deficiencies or outstanding issues from previous reports, the report number for filing purposes. 12.1. Understand the principles of project management and the provision of professional services. 2.1.1. Explain the project management process. The project manager is the person in an architect's office who directs and administers a project, preferably an architect. Typically, project management activities for a project extend 60 days after all other tasks are complete. Residual activities of a project manager should be scheduled accordingly. CHOP 2.3.2 Project Management Appendix. The following 5 spokes must be established, tracked, and proactively managed in order for a project manager to achieve success: vision, marketing, finance, human resources. Delivery systems, like the spokes of a wheel, each must carry an equal weight and demands equal attention, or the entire wheel collapses. These aspects must be managed by, addressed by, selecting and managing people, including in-house staff and outside consultants, ensuring continuous and effective communications, delegating tasks appropriately, arranging and managing meetings, controlling and managing design changes, managing time effectively, and applying computer software for scheduling, estimating, and project control. 2.1.2. Describe the role of the individuals involved in a project, project manager, internal and outside resources. The role of a project manager is that of a leader responsible for ensuring that the project proceeds through successive stages from program approval to project implementation, keeping the project on time and within budget, managing the progress of the project by directing an internal team directing and coordinating the contribution of engineers and other consultants, and achieving the firm's financial objectives, providing proper project closeout, prepare project evaluation and archive documents, filing to be noted, review client-architect agreement before starting work to fully understand scope of services and limitations, identify any increases in fee as a result of additional services required by the project or the client. The role of other internal sources is to facilitate the generation of the project deliverables. Outside resources, such as consultants, are brought onto projects in order to provide insights and professional advice regarding the implementation of systems. 1.2.1.3 describe the contents of a project file. The project file is a comprehensive record of a project's life and a useful future resource. The contents of a project file are generally based on the sequence of project development: general, RFP, client-architect correspondence, meeting minutes, estimates, personnel fee calculation sheets, time reports, invoices, reimbursable expenses, additional services, pre-design, client-architect meeting minutes, surveys, photographs, soils and geotechnical reports, construction budget, functional program, and feasibility studies, design report, meeting minutes, electrical engineer, structural engineer, mechanical engineer, budget, construction cost estimate, authorities having jurisdiction, municipal, regional, provincial, and federal, constable docs, correspondence, meeting minutes, structural engineer, mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, drawings, specifications, authorities having jurisdiction, municipal, regional, provincial, and federal, bid and contract, bid depository, deposits and records, pre-qualifications, bid forms, alternatives and substitutions, bonds, contract documents, insurance, analysis of bids, invitations to bid and advertisements, addenda, final estimate, meeting minutes, consultant correspondence, bid documents, construction, meeting minutes, engineer, certificates of payment, substantial performance, change directives, change orders, supplemental instructions, proposed changes, shop drawings, samples, time schedules as built and record drawings, correspondence, certificates for release of holdback and final payment, schedule of values and applications for payment, deficiency lists, maintenance and operating manuals, as-built record drawings, field review reports, inspection and test reports, photographs and other records, authorities having jurisdiction, municipal, regional, provincial, and federal. Post-construction, correspondence, meeting minutes, cost analysis, warranty inspections, and defective work, occupancy permits and other certificates, warranties, and maintenance bonds, promotional documentation, project evaluation, profitability, objectives attained. 12.2. Evaluate a work plan. 1.2.2.1. Identify the main components of a work plan. The main components of a work plan are: 1. Project definition, why you are doing the work. 2. Work breakdown structure, how you're organizing the work. 3. Task list, the details of what needs to be done. 4. Schedule, when things are going to get done. 5. Organization chart, who is responsible for getting it done. 6. Budget, what it will cost to get done. 7. Quality management plan, how you will make sure it's done right. 8. Client management plan, how you will keep the client happy as it's getting done. 1.2.2.2. Explain the essential elements of effective team management, communications, objectives, etc. The characteristics of the best project manager: being a good communicator, well-organized, good listener, understands the big picture, inspiring leader, team player, a coach, not the star player, motivates others, manages time well, delegates work effectively, rarely gets frustrated. 2.2.3. Evaluate a given work plan. Project scheduling. Don't forget to schedule time of the correction and changes which follow a review. Be sure to let the client know about their role in maintaining a schedule. Confirm that all the necessary groundwork has been completed before you schedule tasks to begin. Never assume that all the staff you will need will always be available when you need them. Build in enough time for the not-so-obvious tasks like phone calls and meetings. Assume that none of your deadlines will be met and develop contingency action plans for the day your assumption comes true. Simplify the process and allow for everyone on your team to understand what's going on. Unite and motivate the team because it has been developed in cooperation and with the commitment of everyone. A good schedule will help you to understand how the tasks are interrelated, will help to anticipate the worst by building in slippage, forcing early deadlines, and including time for non-technical tasks like project management. Scheduling methods. Milestone scheduling, bar chart scheduling, and critical path scheduling. Planning tools to help the project manager and team to organize tasks and meet deadlines. Schedules help in the monitoring of tasks until project completion. Bar Gantt chart, more commonly used, easily understood, displaying start and completion dates and percent completion. Ease and low cost of preparation and change. Ability to be prepared manually. Filestows show the interrelationships between tasks, inasmuch as it's limited to a timeline. Filestow prioritize the tasks in any way. Filestow assists the project manager by identifying which tasks are critical to reaching the end date. Critical path, useful on large, complex projects on which many people are working over a long period of time. Identifies which tasks have a direct effect on the final deadline. Provides a high level of project control, high cost, and effort of preparation. The need for regular schedule maintenance and updating to be of continuing use. The difficulty in understanding the charts and communicating to the rest of the team. Method. Identify task interrelationships. Establish task durations, prepare project schedules, and determine critical paths. PERT, known as Program Evaluation and Review Technique, a representation of dependency. Define tasks and milestones and links tasks in sequence. Assigns a time estimate for completion of each task. Uses a dependency network for sequence of activities, simple associations, and algorithm. The length of time for completion of each task is based upon an assumption. Project tracking needed to report percentage completion of individual tasks throughout the project. The earned value method applies a value to work required and work completed. It requires a work breakdown structure, WBS, a task list, a bar chart schedule, a project budget, bottom-up, which identifies the number of hours required for each task. The concept of earned value is based upon assigning each task a value. When the task is complete, the firm will have earned the amount in the budget for that task. Each task is completed over a duration of time, and the value of the task will be earned over the duration of the task, not front-end loaded. This allows you to plot a graph of earnings or expenditures. Budget. The budget must allocate for each component: direct labor, overheads, other direct costs, contingencies, and profit. Recognizing an out-of-control project. Monitor the health of your project and recognize the symptoms of an out-of-control project. Feel paralyzed in a state of inaction. The project has taken on a life of its own. Things are happening without your input. Who knows where this is going? Feeling unexpected cost overruns, missing deadlines, can't get caught up, busy fighting fires, with no time to strategize. Are you the last to know? Are work scopes being added without adjustments to the budget and the schedule? Project management rules to keep you out of trouble. Monitor the earned value method graphs with projected, earned, and actual plots. Work with a contingency buffer, which allows flexibility if the project is slightly behind schedule or over budget. Be skeptical. Anticipate problems. Rework a budget and schedule before starting work. Revisit and revise the project plan regularly. Conduct postmortems on every job and incorporate lessons learned in future jobs. Pronto profit at all stages of the job. Stay close to the client and design team with constant and thorough communication. Settle in a solution quickly and go with it. Review the scope of work and don't stray from it. Use overtime sparingly. Use staff with experience, not for training on sinking jobs. Sit down and talk with the client. Check with your accounts to see if you are over budget. Know when to stop, to let the team know to stop, tweaking Pareto's principle, the law of diminishing returns. Continued efforts will contribute less and less to the overall quality of a job. When the project reaches 95% completion, work should be stopped and evaluated so that it may be kick-finished. Treat the last 5% of a project as a brand new project with a skeleton team, a SWAT team, to swoop down and finish the project with clean energy and enthusiasm. With a kick finish, you can dramatically increase your return on the last 5% of the effort and achieve a much higher level of quality for the effort you invest. 2.2.4. Describe the quality assurance process in a project. Standards of quality expected. Know the client's needs and listen. Generate a standard of quality for a given project. The quality management plan should document the client expectations and the process you plan to use to achieve the desired outcome. This will let the entire team and the client work from the same understanding, so mistakes of too little or too much aren't made during the project.